Hi everyone, another fun thing to have a look inside today. This is a Palm 3E that I bought for a couple of bucks. As far as I can tell, this thing was never used, which is not super surprising with this model. This was about 2000 and was a relatively low-end model, but the docking station, essentially the cable looked like it had never been unwrapped. Anyway, put some batteries in, and there we go. It works. I wasn't a Palm OS user at the time, but you know, productivity apps, it was dependent on syncing with a computer via docking cable, and since this is a fairly early one, it does that over a serial port. And I had a real bother trying to get the serial port to work on this. I have a serial adapter, but it's quite old, and there doesn't appear to be a current Windows driver to that version of the prolific chipset that's in that. So I dredged out an old Mac, which I knew had the driver on it, plugged it in, software loaded, everything seemed fine, connected, but then seems to fail doing the software update to this. So I don't know what's going on, and my urge to fight with it is not terribly great. But anyway, this works perfectly. The thing about these is they don't really do handwriting recognition. They do something called graffiti, which uses simplified characters. Some of them work as you'd think they would, but some of them don't. So that's an F. T is always hard for me to remember. And you should be able to go left by doing that. You can, if you write on this side, it will do numbers. Let me see that. So it'll do numbers on that side. You can do spaces plus. Anyway, I don't know what all the characters are. There's a carriage return, which is like that. No. No. Anyway, I can't remember. You can also, of course, bring up a keyboard, which most people did, and then you can use it. Again, this is a pressure-sensitive touchscreen, so it's not a capacitive touchscreen like we're used to. So you do need to, press with the stylus to make it work. But that's actually not too bad. It's a very good resistive touchscreen in that regard. And so this is this active screen area, and this is the sort of touchpad area, but you use the little stylus. The stylus goes nicely here, and Palm used to sell packages of two of those. The screen on this is actually a bit interesting. There's a little wheel, an analog, essentially, brightness control that really controls the contrast, right? And it's got a backlight, but it's side lit, and you're not going to be able to see it at all under this. It's actually turned on there, but yeah, it's side lit, and it makes these stand out in the dark, but it really is sort of green light, but I don't really know how I could possibly videotape that except in a perfectly dark room. Anyway, so that's the Palm, and let's have a look inside it. So let's take the stylus out, and I just took the cover off, and it looks like we've got 4 little Phillips screws here. Let me just make sure I'm sort of centered. I don't imagine there's much to see inside here, but we need to have a look. I should probably take the batteries out first. It just uses AA's. Other versions did have rechargeable batteries, if I remember correctly. The great thing about these sorts of PDA type devices is that the batteries just lasted and lasted in them. So there were a variety of different fold-up keyboards of various types that people used. All right, so let's see. I think we're going to have to do some sputtering. Okay, there's one. Okay, let's try the other side. Two clips, one was about here, yep. And the other one, and there we are in it. I didn't notice the bottom port on it that connects to this edge connector here has a little dust cover. Very simple, very clever. So what have we got? We've got the backup. Is that a battery or a capacitor? I can't see. Looks a bit like a battery. We've got the infrared detector and receiver and transmitter. We've got, this is the little brightness contrast adjustment. I'm guessing, well, let's see if we can get this board out and have a look at the rest. Let me just check my framing up here again. Okay. I prefer not to remove. Okay, let's see. We've got clips around the battery pack here. Okay, and the other side there. And there we are out. So what have we got here? A bodge wire. By the way, this is a great pointing device for, look, there's a bodge wire here to this capacitor. Glad I'm not the one who had to solder that in. Presumably that's a power pin or something and they were having trouble with it stability. So what have we got? We've got SEC 7420692, copyright 1999, 3Com Corporation, all rights reserved. That's probably memory. That's probably the ROM. Then we have SEC Korea 9, this looks like maybe that's the RAM. And then we should find a Dragon Ball processor in here, and it's right here. And that says, and I can zoom in a little bit. That says Dragon Ball Easy XE 688 Easy 2328P UT6V. So that's the processor. I'm guessing that's memory. That's probably the ROM. More advanced versions of this thing had more memory, so maybe that's for a second memory chip, which isn't on this version. These are the buttons you can see. Zoom back out a little bit more. I can get the whole thing in the screen. Maybe we'll get it sideways. Then yeah, that's better. So we've got, so that's what I think. There's the quartz crystal. These are the buttons that go with. You can see they fold over, and here's the little conductive carbon impregnated plastic pieces there. Here are a bunch of capacitors. These have got to be screen control chips or touch screen controllers, something like that. Don't want to try to take the screen out really. Is this going up to the edge light maybe? These look like one. I mean, it's not an active matrix screen, so probably this goes to the columns and this goes to the rows maybe. And that could be the backlight. Is there? Everything else seems to be accounted for. Quite simple design, but there's a lot of stuff in here. Well, now we can get the fun part and see if I can put it back together and whether it still works. What do we? Oh, there's a little switch there. What does that do? Oh, that's the reset switch. Look, that lines up with this on the back. Okay. That's just a pot. This has got to be power supply stuff. Is there? One of these might be a power supply chip. I think there's like a buck boost on here. It would seem to make sense that there would be. We've got a few inductors and capacitors presumably there. You'd need to power this. And yeah. Well, anyway, well, let's put it back together, and it shouldn't be too involved, provided we haven't broken anything. I did find, I don't know where I put it now, I did find one plastic tab that might have come out of this, or perhaps something else I was looking at before. That seems to be. Are we all in on this side? I'm not. Oh, it looks like it. Oh, no, not. There we go. Now let's see, does this go on all the way? Okay, there we go. Seems to be together. So we put the batteries in first. I'll show you one thing that's really weird about this is it's got plus and minus going to, plus going to the spring side on one of the batteries, which is not what we're all used to. All right. So we're into the setup mode. So yes, we have power. So just need to put in these 4 screws. Fortunately, all the same. And then we will have a completed Palm 3E. My wife at some point had a Treos, which was the really low cost version. Not sure she ever used it before I knew her. Okay, so here we are. So on the following screen, let's try. So you've got to calibrate. You've got to calibrate the touch screen by tapping, and then you can set, you know, the country. And the time. What are we? 10:30. Close enough. All right, now this is very interesting. Year 2000 problem, not affecting this. August still 6. And there we go. All back. Well, thanks for following me along as I looked inside this Palm 3E. Still the 3Com name on it by that point. Hope you enjoyed this little thing, and there will undoubtedly be more looks inside in the future. Thanks.